Video, we will be looking at what different critics have had to say through centuries about criticism. So, here we have in front of us Francis Bacon, who says, read not to contradict and confute, not to believe and take for granted, nor to find talk and discourse, but to weigh and consider. Some books are to be tasted, others to be swallowed, some few to be chewed and digested. So Francis Bacon uses food metaphor, and he compares food to books, right? And he says some books are meant to be taken seriously, some are meant to be taken lightly, some are meant to be just read once and forgotten, some are meant to be analyzed. Just like we treat food, we need to treat books. And I would like to draw your attention to the phrases which I have marked in red. So he says, don't start with a negative or a positive bias. So when he says, don't read to contradict, which means don't apply your negative bias immediately, and don't read to believe either, which means don't get swayed by the work. So don't be too positive also, and don't believe whatever the work tells you, right? So as a critic, you need to be above your personal prejudices and your personal biases. You cannot be bigoted as a critic. You need to weigh and consider. You need to be very careful and objective in your approach. So this was Francis Bacon. Now let's see what the next critic has to say. Okay, so this is Alexander Pope. And Alexander Pope tells us that let such teach others who themselves excel, and censure freely who have written well. So here, Alexander Pope is investing the critic with a lot of power. He says, but he's also giving us a very clear idea about what is expected of a critic and the kind of qualities a critic needs to have. So he says, first of all, a critic should be excellent at his or her own work, and only then the critic is in a position to tell others what is wrong or right with their work. So a critic needs to have a background, a scholarship, and a certain level of awareness to be able to tell others or to be able to judge the works of others. And once the critic has a certain scholarly standing, once the critic has a certain academic standing, only then the critic is in a position or has the power to censure freely. Censure is to pass judgments, to say, oh, I don't like this about this work, or this part is beautiful. Okay, so, and here he's also implying that the one who is the writer and the one who writes well, the one who excels in creative works of art, can be a good critic. So, and he or she is also in a position to judge others' works of art. Moving on, we have Matthew Arnold over here. He's a noted Victorian critic, and he says criticism is a disinterested endeavor to learn and propagate the best that is known and thought in the world. So here he talks about the duty, the responsibilities of a good critic, and also the approach that a good critic should employ. So, first of all, the good critic has to be disinterested. So, again, over here, he is emphasizing the need to be objective and not let your personal opinions interfere. So, it has to be a disinterested effort, and then the good critic has to convey whatever is best, whatever is essential and universally appealing to the rest of the world. So, that was Matthew Arnold for you.